Hello everyone, I am AYDOGAN Vatandaş, the editor-in-chief of POLITURCO.com. Today I'm joined by Dr. KEMAL SAHIN. He is an expert on international law and in the field of human rights violations. Today we are going to talk about the recent developments related to the kidnapping and abductions incidents conducted by the Turkish government. And the most recent one was in Kyrgyzstan. So, Dr. Shahin, can you please summarize what happened in Kyrgyzstan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vatandaş. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been following the news, and it's really shocking that we hear. Every month another kind of kidnapping. One following the other one, and these kind of events, have been happening, with impunity. Mm-hmm. And since the notorious coup attempt, let me say fake coup attempt of July 15th in 2016, we have been witnessing dozens of kidnappings, obviously conducted by the agents of Turkish intelligence organization. Curiously enough, to say that such kidnappings were not denied by the Turkish government, especially when it comes to the international kidnappings. Quite on the contrary, the government, indeed, its president was boasting with such kidnappings, presenting these kidnappings, these crimes as a success story. And the pro-government media presents the kidnappings, the government's incredible success. As you say, in one of the most recent kidnapping incidents, I think the one before that happened in Kyrgyzstan today, that happened in Kenya. Turkey's President Erdogan was bragging with the kidnapping of a school teacher with the following words. Let me read from the news. We will soon announce the capture of a very important FETÖ member. Is in our hands. Erdogan said these words on May 19. He was obviously referring to kidnapping of Selahattin Gülen's by Secret Service agents. And again, it's completely appalling. It's completely shocking that such words were said by a president about the kidnapping of a school teacher. As if, let me say this, as if he won the Battle of Normandy in the Second World War. I don't know if the General Eisenhower ever presented the winning, in that way. So the government obviously boasting with their heinous wicked crimes. We have an ongoing kidnapping case now.
In Kyrgyzstan.
Yes, in Kyrgyzstan. Let me read it from the news again. Police in Bishkek reported on June 1, the 1st of June, that a car belonging to Orhan Inanli, who gained Kyrgyzstan citizenship in 2012, was overnight discovered with its doors open in the courtyard of a high-rise residential complex. This was reported by the news, and now we have this is viral in social media, on Twitter, we have seen some news that Mr. Inandi, who was also working at one of the school or the general director of some schools or the president.
He's an educator, right? He is an educator.
Yes, he's an educator. He was a teacher. And he has still been kept in Turkish embassy and is being tortured to force him to sign some papers to show that he voluntarily waived the Turkish, Kyrgyz citizenship. They believe this would facilitate his abduction, maybe under the guise of some rendition process, because it's almost an absolute rule that a citizen shall not be extradited to another state for he or she committed a crime. Maybe they are trying to override this rule, and I don't know, but they should know what they are doing at the moment is a crime, constitute an aggravated form. The crime they have been committed because they are torturing, and the torture is a blatant violations of preemptory rules of international law, violations of use cogens, violations of international public order, and everybody knows that. And who Williams, director of Human Rights Watch, Europe and Central Asia, says that, let me quote his words, enforced disappearance, I'm quoting, enforced disappearances are an egregious crime, and their persistent occurrence in Turkey will only end if the authorities effectively investigate these incidents and bring those responsible to justice. Hugh Williams here misses an important point in these kidnappings, and he expects, let me say, naively, that the Turkish government should conduct an effective investigation into these incidents and bring those responsible for these crimes to justice. Hugh Williams, misses the point that such kidnappings, conducted directly by Turkish agents, not just with the knowledge of Turkish government, but direct order by the Turkish government. Another commentator, Nate Shankan, director for special research at Freedom House, says that, now I'm quoting, Turkey's national security state has pulled out its whole bag of tactics and deployed them against Gülenists as well as against others, just as they have in the past, and that includes kidnappings, torture, and secret renditions. Of course, it's been horrible for decades, the way in which the Turkish state has acted with impunity in so many years, in so many cases, against dissidents, political movements, against Kurds and other ethnic minorities, with total disregard for due process. And now we see that widening to even a larger group. This says that Nate Sherkin, special director for special research at Freedom House.
So let's remind the audience that Mr. Orhan İnandı is still being kept in the Turkish embassy in Bishkek. So because there were some allegations that he might have been taken to Turkey, but it's not the case. So we know that from the sources in Kyrgyzstan that he is still in the embassy. So what do you think that the legal basis of him being kept in the embassy? What do you think that the international community or the Kyrgyzstan legal system or the authorities can do about that?
Yeah, I think this kind of acts, kidnappings, this kind of operations, secret operations, conducted by the agents of another state within the territory of the other state, let's say in our case in Kyrgyzstan, is a brazen violation of the sovereignty of this state, I mean Kyrgyzstan. So it's a crime. I mean, they have been committing an ongoing crime. So it's a crime under international law. And it's a crime under the domestic laws of that country, Kyrgyzstan. So the Kyrgyz authorities has the sole authority in this case to proceed with, to investigate into this incident to clear the whereabouts of that person, to find out where he has been kept.
Right.
And it's also their right and duty to investigate, to figure out who those people who are responsible for the commission of such a brazen, heinous crime. As being alleged, if there is also torture, and in that case, I think it's a duty of that state, Kyrgyz authorities, to conduct this investigation seriously, and this obligation, is conferred on that state, on this government, on Kyrgyz government, to conduct that investigation, through international law.
Sure, I have.
Because it's an invasion of sovereignty of, let's say.
So why do you think that the Turkish government doesn't follow legal extradition processes in these cases, but they are just trying to kidnap people from different countries?
That's I think a great question. That's the core of our subject here, because we need to take a look at the peculiarities, the characteristics of every case, individual case here. Who are these people? The Turkish government deploys, as Nathan Shakin says, deploys all the means it has in order to make an abduction success story. Are they heinous criminals, such as those who are responsible for murdering people, or are they those people who are responsible for drug trafficking, leading a drug trafficking, or those who are responsible for really big fraud cases, or even, let's say, those who committed even any minor crime, a misdemeanor? Obviously, the answer here is no. When you look at the identities of almost all of the kidnapped individuals, we see clearly and obviously that these people are teachers who are working at Gulen-linked schools. They are nothing more than just being a teacher. And
so it is interesting.
If you follow, let me finish this point. If you follow a procedure, a rendition, an extradition procedure here to take these people back to Turkey, okay, to extradite for the crimes, the alleged crimes they committed, right? They had committed, according to the Turkish government. What do you have to submit as evidence to prove that these people, deserves a fair trial,
Absolutely.
to be held accountable for the crimes they had committed. What crimes they had committed, to account that, through a fair trial. But there is no a fair trial in Turkey. We have sham trials, fake trials,
Absolutely.
to convict these people, innocent people, just for, to establish a guilt by association, by a link to a group of people. They are not looking at, they are not searching for some criminal act, even a minor, even a misdemeanor, but they are searching all the authorities, judicial authorities, security forces, secret service agents, all of them, with all their, means deployed to find out whether this person or any person has any tie with any link to Gulen movement. That's it.
Sure.
And if you decide, if you conclude that you are somehow, you have some kind of a link or association with Gulenist movement, then that's okay with them to convict you, torture you, sentence you to some years of imprisonment. That's it. That's the case.
Dr. Shahin, what do you think about the reaction from the civilized world, from the European Union, from the democratic countries? Do you see enough reactions to these abductions conducted by Turkey?
I think the United Nations, some of the authorities or institutions of the United Nations, as far as I know, have been involved in such cases, now dealing with such cases, and they are going to, I believe, produce some conclusions, some decisions about these cases. And I'm sure again that they will decide, they will conclude that these kidnappings is first a brazen violation of that sovereignty of that state, and second, this kind of kidnapping, is a crime under international law too. They will decide that. But I think the most important task here should be conferred upon the state in which this violation by Turkish government, has occurred at the moment in Kyrgyzstan. The Kyrgyz authorities should act in a way to prevent the occurrence of such heinous crime in its territory, in its jurisdiction.
Right. What about the media coverage of these incidents? Do you see enough coverage, for example, particularly about the incident in Kyrgyzstan in the international media? And lastly, what is your message to the international community and particularly to the international media?
I think as far as I've been following the international news agencies, the coverage of these events are, I think, is not enough to respond, to share this kind of international criminal acts, let's say, with the international community, to intervene with such illegal operations, which are obvious violations of customary international law, the preemptory rules of international law, use cogans. And I think we have another example, that occurred, that took place in Belarus, as you know. And the European Union's response to that event.
Right.
And we know that we need really forceful sanctions to be imposed against Turkey to stop it from violating international law, breaching international public order. Even though you're not able to nail down the persons who committed these crimes, I mean personally, individually, you can still figure out the people who should be held responsible for such crimes, because we have some kind of theories in criminal law, in crime and punishment theories. You cannot rehabilitate the criminal in such cases, because we cannot, individually in some incarceration complex to rehabilitate these people. You can only use the other two purposes of criminal law, criminal punishment. One is the retributivism, the other is the deterrence. Retributivism asserts that we should punish the perpetrator because and only because the wrongdoer deserve it. And the deterrence, I think the most important one here in this case, deterrence argues that the threat of punishment must deter people from committing crime and reduce the probability of commission of the crimes in international community, in societies. And the impact of deterrence on the would-be criminals, those who want to commit these crimes, depends on two factors. The first is that the certainty of punishment. I think the most important factor here is the certainty of punishment is the most important. If the perpetrator thinks that his act would go unpunished, there would be no other thing which might deter this person from committing another crime of the same kind, of the same sort, of the same nature. And secondly, the severity of punishment is also important, because through this, a would-be perpetrator, would make a calculation in whether potential gain, he would gain from this criminal act would be worth the risk of being punished. Remember again how the European Union responded to the action conducted by Belarus government. What Belarus government acted in that case was a blatant violation of international law. It was a grave and capital crime.
Yes.
Hijacking of a plane, an aircraft. And if committed by an individual, this crime, hijacking, that would be punishable in many jurisdictions of many states by death penalty, or in case there is no death penalty, life imprisonment. So aggravated life imprisonment.
By a government.
Yes. Now these acts are, committed by governments. And government, yes, we are talking about states and governments. These are institutions, legal institutions, legal entities, but these are governed and directed by human beings, individual persons, Right. So you should account them for what they do, and if they are committing heinous, grave, capital crimes. You know, EU President, Commission President called this incident as a state hijacking.
Mm-hmm.
But behind that, there are people, you know, doing that, committing these crimes.
Absolutely, you're right.
So, yeah.
Dr. Shahin, thank you so much for this stimulating, enlightening conversation into you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you
so much,
for giving me this opportunity to express this.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Mm-hmm. Today, I talked to Dr. Kemal Shahin. He is an expert in international law and in the field of human rights violations.
Rights law, international human rights law.
International human rights law. So we will go on talking to Dr. Kemal Shahin and some other experts in that field. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.